All right, well, we're going to get started. So good evening, everyone. I am Tessa Updike. I am archivist for the Citadel and a member of the Citadel's 2023 Women's History Month Committee. It is my great pleasure to welcome you to this evening's event. We are joined this evening by three remarkable women. Our panelists, Sarah Zorn, class of 2019, Kathryn Christmas, class of 2022, and moderator Allison Dean Love, a member of the Citadel's Board of Visitors and alumna of the Citadel Graduate College. Sarah Zorn and Kathryn Christmas are the first two women in the history of the Citadel to lead the South Carolina Corps of Cadets as regimental commander, the highest rank a cadet can achieve. Their strength, courage, and leadership are an inspiration to us all, and I can't wait to hear their stories this evening and to learn where they are today. Our moderator is Allison Dean Love, a 1993 graduate of the Citadel Graduate College. Love is a national level consultant, primarily working with insurance and higher education organizations with more than 30 years of experience in public relations, communications, and media relations. Owner of her own consulting firm, she has worked with major media outlets worldwide, as well as national, state, and local clients for more than 13 years, engaging in crisis communications, loss prevention, risk management, strategic planning, and board governance. She also serves as a senior consultant for the Association of Governing Boards of Universities and Colleges. Elected by the South Carolina General Assembly as the first and only graduate of the Citadel Graduate College to serve on the Citadel Board of Visitors, Love is the longest serving voting member on the board in college history. Serving on a number of high-profile boards, she has delivered national and international speeches and training sessions for nearly 30 years. Love holds a Bachelor of Business Administration and Management from Middle Tennessee State University, a Master of Business Administration from the Citadel, and an Associate in Personal Insurance from the Insurance Institute of America. And so we are thrilled to have Allison Dean Love lead this important discussion with Sarah Zorn and Kathryn Christmas. So thank you all so much for accepting our invitation. We invite attendees to put any questions that they have in the Q&A section of our webinar, and time permitting, we'll answer any questions at the end of the panel discussion. And I am looking at our panelists right now, and it appears that we are still trying to bring our wonderful moderator, Allison, into our webinar. And so I am going to start us off.
Aha.
I hear from Erin Weimer, our technology guru from the evening. Erin, do you have
Yes,
Allison with us?
she's here.
Okay, excellent. So Allison will be added as a moderator. And Allison, welcome.
Sarah, Kathryn, hi.
Hello.
So we are
really good to see you after trying to get in for 20 minutes.
So we are live with our webinar right now. Allison, I just introduced you. We have about 20 attendees who have come in, and I will go back to my emails and respond to anyone who's trying to get in and send the Zoom link again. But we are live and we are ready to get started with our questions. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Tessa. Thank you for all the help, and sorry about the technology glitches. I was texting with Sarah and trying to make sure I got in. I'm sorry that I'm running a little bit late, but I wish I could see everyone who has joined us. And I guess toward the end, we're going to take questions. And so hopefully we'll be able to see some of the folks that are with us. I want to say a special thanks to Aaron Weimer, our librarian, for the invitation to be with you this evening, and to thank you all for making the time to join us. It is truly an honor to be with these two young ladies and to moderate this session for the Women's History Month for the Citadel 2023. And these two young ladies are absolutely amazing. And you two have no idea how much I respect you and admire you for all that you have done and all that you will do. And before we get into the history of women in the Corps of Cadets, I wanted to give just a very brief background on the history of women at the Citadel. And first, we have to recognize all of the women who have served in the faculty for decades. And, there's so many people that I could name personally. I was recruited to join the Citadel MBA program by someone I went to church with in Charleston. And there's a lot of ambassadors out there who are women who love the Citadel. And so we need to recognize all those wonderful women who are faculty. And then also, we need to recognize the women, the history of women in the Citadel Graduate College as well, which started in 1968. And the reason we started the graduate college was to meet the needs of the Lowcountry. And the primary reason at first was to help educate women to gain their master's degrees in education. And the first woman to graduate from the graduate college was Maxine Hudson, and she was a dear friend of mine. And if her daughter is on this evening, I would love to say hello to her. But Maxine majored in education and went on to have a wonderful career. She just passed away in November at the age of 94. And she was such an amazing lady and loved the Citadel so much. She completed her degree requirements in December 1969 and moved on to graduate and walk during the commencement ceremony with her Master of Art in Teaching in May of 1970. And she taught history for years at North Charleston High School and first started taking undergraduate courses on the Citadel campus during the summer in the 1950s, when cadets were not present, through a University of South Carolina extension program for teachers. And she joined the Citadel graduate program when it was founded in 1968. So now fast forward, I'm going to skip a lot, fast forward about 30 years to the mid-1990s, when women were first admitted to the Corps of Cadets. Nancy Mace became our first woman to graduate from the Citadel Corps of Cadets in 1999. She went on to get a master's degree at the University of Georgia. She started her own PR firm. She ran for U.S. Senate, served in the South Carolina House, and is now serving in Congress. So what an impressive person she has been, and all that she has done for not only the Citadel, but for the nation. And so I'm proud to be an MBA graduate from the Citadel Graduate College. And in the spring of 1993, I was working on accreditation reports for some of my professors in business. And I was surprised to find out that about half of the students in the graduate college were women. And that is still true today, with about 48% of our graduate college students being women, primarily because of majors like education or counseling. And I started serving on the Citadel board in 1997, first appointed by the board to serve on the board, and then elected 4 times by the South Carolina General Assembly. And I've been serving almost as long as we've had women in the Corps. So I've seen a lot of change when it comes to the history of women at the Citadel. And in 2002, we had our first female battalion commander, Amanda Orson. And now, fast forward again 21 years, we have 13% of our Corps is made up by women. So I am so excited to introduce these two wonderful young ladies. Sarah Zorn, I've had the opportunity over the last several years to get to know you, and Kathryn over the last 2 or 3 years to get to know you. Sarah was in the class of 2019 in Mike Company, bachelor's degree in business administration. She was the Baker School of Business Student of the Year, recipient of the Palmetto Medal, the Lila K. Whetstone Award, many other awards that she's even forgotten by now, I'm sure. And she had a 4-year Army ROTC scholarship. She served as a squad corporal, recruiting corporal, 1st Battalion Cadet Sergeant Major, Regimental Cadet Sergeant Major, and Regimental Commander. Her previous duty stations, and I'm going to have her tell you what she's doing now. She, after she graduated, went to Fort Knox, Kentucky, in advanced camp cadre, Fort Sill, Oklahoma, in field artillery and officer basic course, Joint Base Lewis McChord, where she's just been and served as a battery operations officer, platoon leader, battery executive officer, and she's shot rockets around the world, including Guam, Saipan, New Mexico, and Washington. Oh, and now she is going on to Fort, say it for me, Sarah. Huachuca, Arizona, for military intelligence captain's career course. And she's commanded a HIMARS battery for 6 months during the past year. She's currently engaged to an absolutely wonderful young man named Jonathan and plans to get married in March of next year and will have 2 stepchildren, Dylan and Skylar. Her future plans in the next 5 years include pursuing a master's degree, battalion S2 time, commanding a military intelligence company, so many things. And in her free time, she enjoys traveling sometimes to Tennessee to visit with me, hiking, museums, and spending time with her family and friends. So Sarah, welcome. Kathryn, I'm going to go ahead and introduce you as well so we can start the Q&A. Kathryn Christmas, and I keep calling you Kathryn Christmas instead of Kathryn Beal. So she's married now. It's Kathryn Beal, but she is from Easley, South Carolina. She was a mechanical engineering major, had a 4-year Air Force ROTC contract with a pilot slot. I'm really jealous, Kathryn. And an Air Force officer now. She was in the Honors College, was a Gold Star cadet 8 times, treasurer for Tau Beta Pi, which is the Honor Society for Engineers, Phi Kappa Phi, and had a 3.97 GPA. She was on the President's List, Battalion Sergeant Major of 5th Battalion, the Women's Rugby Team Match Secretary, Regimental Commander of the Corps Cadets, graduated last year in 22, summa cum laude. She is stationed at Columbus Air Force Base. She's completed the initial flight training in Pueblo, Colorado, and working for Director of Operations A3X. I want you to explain that, at the Pentagon on the Flying Hours program while waiting for training. And she will begin her academic portion of undergraduate pilot training April 21st. So, Kathryn, thank you for being with us. Now that I've introduced you a little bit, I'm going to go ahead and start some Q&A. So both of you, how did you hear about the Citadel and what attracted you to the school? Sarah, you want to go first?
Sure, absolutely. So I kind of have a unique story. I think what attracted me most to the Citadel was the military lifestyle. I was a recipient of the 4-year Army ROTC scholarship. I'm not very good at secondary planning, so I knew I wanted to commission active duty, and I thought that the Citadel would provide me the best opportunity to do that. So I was a recipient of the 4-year Army ROTC scholarship. That was my primary source of funding for my education, one of the only sources of funding for my education. And the Citadel was the only school that I applied to. Believe it or not, I was lucky enough to be accepted. And I guess now the rest is history. No pun intended.
And you sure did make history, that is for sure. There's so many articles and so many interviews. It's really amazing. If someone were to Google you, there'd be no end to it. Kathryn, what about you? What attracted you to the Citadel?
So I grew up in an officer household, and I at first wanted to go to the Air Force Academy, but I was kind of lazy in high school and did not want to go through that year-long process of applying. So I chose the scholarship instead, which also took a year. So in the end, it also worked out. I knew I wanted to go military, and so I got the 4-year Air Force scholarship, and I pre-nubbed. And when I pre-nubbed, I knew it was for me.
Wonderful. Wow. Not everybody feels the same way as the two of you, right? And so just amazing stories that you both have had. If you could sum up your knob year experience in one word, what would it be and why? Either one, jump in.
I would say mine definitely would be eye-opening, or yeah, definitely eye-opening. And the reason my why would be that during my knob year, I learned a lot about myself, and then I also learned about a lot about other people. I learned the characteristics of people who I wanted to emulate as leaders and characteristics of people who I did not want to emulate as leaders. I learned a lot about what I was capable of. I learned a lot about what I wasn't capable of. Mechanical engineering as a major was one of those. I am not good at math. Kathryn, if I need you for numbers, I'll give you a call. But yeah, so that is most definitely kind of the major things that I would say, kind of how I would sum up my knob year.
Kathryn, what about you?
I thought long and hard about this question, and I could not come up with one. There were so many pivotal experience at the Citadel for me that I could not choose one word, but Sarah definitely came through with eye-opening. That could sum up my Citadel experience, because just like she said, there were so many different things that I learned from other people that happened outside of the Citadel that just really grew that experience for me.
Well, and I've got a follow-up question, because I know that you were there with Sarah, so I want to see how that was for you. But before I get to that, what was a challenge that you faced as a cadet, and how did you resolve it? And I'm sure that there's probably more than one challenge during your time. Kathryn, you're on a roll. Go ahead.
Okay. So for one, especially during the COVID year, my junior year, it was very hard for all of us, but because I was sergeant major of an upperclassmen battalion only, it was hard to get the upperclassmen to do what the knobs usually do, as in sweep details, taking out the trash, doing all of that. So it was hard. It was very hard. And I had to talk with my battalion commanders, talk with my first sergeants, and figure out how to come up with a solution for that. But because it was COVID, it was the regulations, and that was just probably one of my biggest challenges going through my cadet year. COVID
was a challenge not only for the Citadel, but every college in the United States. And some of the colleges, as a consultant in higher education, I can say that some of the colleges have closed as a result of their experience. So that was a really tough thing that you had to go through. Sarah, what about you?
I would say that I faced a few challenges during my cadet experience, but one of the ones I would say was particularly challenging on a personal and a social level was when I had to assume the position of regimental sergeant major. So I was 1st Battalion Sergeant Major, and I had done that job for a short while, probably almost until the end of first semester, and then a situation came up where the individual who was serving as the regimental sergeant major could no longer serve in the position. So, and they needed basically somebody to volunteer. And the way that, succession of command went, I was next on the list. So it was in that time, I would say it was difficult on a social level, because the person that had been serving in that position was very well liked, was a very popular individual. And although this person could no longer serve in that position, a lot of people still wanted them to. So I faced a lot of adversity assuming that position, and I feel as if I had to work really hard to earn a lot of the respect from my classmates, from upperclassmen, from junior classmen, in order to make that position successful.
And pave the way for Kathryn later on, right?
Absolutely.
Yes, yes. Either one of you or both of you, what's a memory from your cadet years that still makes you smile when you remember it?
I think I can speak for both of us when we say ring day, because getting it back in the chapel for that was by far one of the best memories of my cadet career.
Yes, yes, I know that means so much to you. Sarah, anything that you'd like to share?
Absolutely. Ring Day is probably one of the best experiences any cadet could have. But also just a kind of a funny knob year story. So my knob year, I lived in the fourth large with three other females, and if any one of them are on this call, hello, and I miss all of you. But we were all getting ready to go shower, and we were walking down the hallway, or I'm sorry, walking down the hall to the showers, and one of my classmates, Sam, she dropped her shampoo bottle. Well, we were on the fourth floor, traveling down to the third floor, and her shampoo rolled underneath the railing and fell down onto the quad.
Oh.
And it just so happened that one of our upperclassmen was down there, and he saw this whole thing happen. All of a sudden, we hear one of our upperclassmen shout up all the stairs, and he says, "Well, come down here and get it." And the shampoo bottle had shattered. There's shampoo all over the quad. There's plastic in pieces. So you see, poor little, Sam Kimbrell running down all the stairs in her bathrobe, and she has to ask for permission to go on the quad so she can clean up her shampoo. And she's sitting there trying to pick up shampoo and pick up the pieces of her bottle. It was just one of those silly knobbier things that, we recall and that we remember. And if I was to share that story with them still today, we would definitely all share a laugh about it, because once we got in the bathroom under a little bit of protection, we all had a very, very hearty, robust laugh about it for sure.
What a great story. Great story. So, Sarah, you made history, as we've said, as the first regimental commander who was a woman. And could you tell us what that was like? All the attention. I know it had to be overwhelming. And how did you make your classmates see you as the regimental commander rather than the first female regimental commander?
Oh, absolutely. So I'll share another kind of funny anecdote. Captain Pluso was the commandant my junior year, senior, the entire time that I was at the Citadel. But he, when I got the news that I was going to be the regimental commander, they put everybody's pictures up on the board. He and Dylan Graham, who was the outgoing regimental commander, they get done, and we walk out into the hallway in Jenkins Hall. And Captain Pluso finally looks at me and he says, "Sarah, you can be happy. You can smile." Because I guess at that point, it really hadn't hit me of what was actually happening. But I'll say that that what I tried to do as the regimental commander to keep people from seeing me as this female regimental commander is that I never used that as my identity. So I approached the job of regimental commander as exactly that. It was a job that I showed up to do every single day. And my gender, and any demographic, right? Gender, ethnicity, anything like that, had nothing to do with it. It was how I showed up for the South Carolina Corps of Cadets every day. And I think by doing that, I earned the respect of my classmate and earned the respect of others, and was able to kind of steer away from that moniker.
Well, and you earned the respect of everyone at the Citadel. Everyone on the board respected you. The word was how wonderful a job that you were doing. And you didn't smile too much there at the beginning, but I was glad to see you smile after a while. So, Kathryn, you are a knob under the command of the first female regimental commander. So what was that like for you?
It was kind of funny because all my classmates were like, hey, there's already a first one. There can be a second one. And they looked at me and I'm like, nah, no way, no way. But it turned out to be true. But I had somebody to look up to. It was like, wow, it's already been done. That means I can do it. It's not something that's way out there, way out of my league. It's something we all can achieve, whether you're a knob and you want to aspire to be that, or you're a junior and you're just like, you know what, I'm going to try for it. And you just go out for something. It just made me believe that I can achieve something that makes me bigger than myself.
I know that you had some big shoes to fill, and, you know, following in Sarah's footsteps, who was ahead of you by a little bit, but still, everybody was probably saying, well, when Sarah was regimental commander, so you probably heard that a lot, didn't you?
Just a little bit.
Just a couple times. So for both of you, at what point did you expect or think that you might earn the position of regimental commander? And was that your goal from the beginning? Kathryn, you just said that no, it wasn't really your goal, but at what point did you find out that you were going to be regimental commander?
So sophomore year was when COVID hit, and before then I was just trying to focus on that specific, and I came back as battalion sergeant major, and I was kind of iffy on it. But the one thing that really pushed me, the one person, was my battalion commander, Patrick Kress. He really was like, you'd be great for the job. You should do it. You should go out for it. And I said, you know what? I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. I'm going to go for it. And the best outcome came true. So I kind of knew I wanted to go for it and got it junior year. But freshman year, a lot of my classmates were teasing me about, oh, you're going to be the next regimental commander, next female regimental commander. And I was like, there's no way. But it came true.
It came true. And y'all both paved the way for so many other young ladies to do the same thing someday. So share a story with us of someone from the Citadel or elsewhere who inspired you or supported you through your cadet years. And what did that person enable you to do? Sarah, I have a feeling, and I skipped you on finding out when you were going to be regimental commander. Sorry, back up. And tell us when you found out you were going to be regimental commander, then answer that.
So I would say I really didn't know until my picture flashed up on a board. So my knob year, I had I kind of call him my host dad. His name's Chris Poston. He's the dad of a girl who was a knob now. He was a Citadel alum, class of '98. He's like, you could be the regimental commander if you wanted to. I was like, Chris, you're lying. No, that's not me. And then, even going through all the board processes and all the interviews, and there's some really tough competition out there. I don't know if I will ever, ascend to that rank or if I will achieve that. I was very, very fortunate to have a great partner in crime, but I'll say partner in leadership, David Days, who was the regimental executive officer. He was absolutely fantastic. And I would have been, if David would have gotten the position, I would have been absolutely elated, because he would have been able to serve in that position just as well, if not better than I had. But to be honest, I probably didn't think I was gonna achieve the position until the day my face flashed up on the board.
That's wonderful. What about your memory? So I know that your family has been really supportive of you as well, and your cousins. Tell us more about your support group.
Oh, absolutely. Jen and Alan, it's so funny. Jen and Alan, they're my cousins. It's the easiest way to explain it. But they have been my support system from day one, from the day that I got dropped off at the Citadel to the day that I graduated. The first ever time Helen ever wore a tuxedo was because of me and a Citadel event. So it was just, they were beside me every single step of the way. And it's funny because even today, during my cadet years, I would come home on weekends or overnights, and I would always bring a classmate or somebody with me and say, hey, do you just want to stay at my house for a couple of days, have a home cooked meal? And even to this day, there are Citadel alumni or students that I'll give Jen a call and say, hey, I just want to let you know I passed your phone number along to this person. They may be reaching out to you. They may need a place to stay for a couple of days. And so I would say those two in particular, I wouldn't have made it through the Citadel or been successful there if it wasn't for them.
Well, you had a lot of fans and a lot of people cheering you on, including me. So we were all cheering you on, whether you knew that and felt that support or not. But there were a whole lot of people who were behind you, and Kathryn, you too, of course. So share one or two goals that you had when you were regimental commander, and did you achieve those goals?
Kathryn, go ahead. I think your regimental commander experience and your experience at the Citadel is pretty unique. So I'd love to hear your insight on that.
Yeah, so I came off of COVID year, and my biggest goal was to make the Citadel feel like a family again. I know it sounds cliche, but my freshman and sophomore year, I was like, okay, we're all one big family type deal. And then once COVID hit, it was like we were all separated. And not just because of the COVID regulations, it was because we just couldn't talk to each other. We never saw each other. We didn't have all of the good things that the Citadel brought in that year. We had classes, and that's about it. And so it was really, really tough to bring the Corps back together, to make it feel like a family. Like Sergeant Major Yeagle said, won't that be done by the training schedule? And I said, well, yes, you can see it written on a piece of paper, but you can't feel it unless you're all together again. And so that was my big goal for the Citadel Corps of Cadets, is to get back in that mindset of we all look out for each other, we are one big family, and we work together as a team.
Great example. That was a really tough time, and you came through it beautifully. So thank you for that. That was a real team effort. From General Walters to you and everyone in between. Sarah, what about you? Any particular goal that you had?
I would say I had two major goals, and that was, the primary one was to kind of mend the relationship between the Corps cadets and the student athletes. And we're all a part of the Corps cadets, but one significant issue that I saw during my time at the Citadel was a very severe separation between the student athletes and the Corps cadets. And I think David and I accomplished that very well. David played football for the Citadel, so he kind of had that shoe in the door already. But he and I would say, came up with a great plan to foster a lot of support for student athletes and create some perspective for those students or cadets that were not that were not student athletes, because those people are out there on the football field or the soccer field. They're putting in the hours, and that's in academics, that's in the locker rooms, that's being a cadet. So they make a lot of sacrifices to give back to the school in their own specific way. And then I'll say the second goal was giving the avenue that I had to the public eye. I would say that I wanted to do my best to paint the Citadel in a positive light and to dispel as many rumors or as many bad perceptions that the general public may have. And so I think I just, anytime I had the opportunity to speak with anyone in a public platform, I did my best to be the best representation of the school that I could have and answer any questions that anyone had as candidly and as honestly as possible. And I think that even if just a little bit kind of projected the the Citadel forward and gave us, a way forward. That way we can, continue on with the Citadel's mission. And, as we look at diversity and, as we look at the future of the Citadel, that Kathryn and I, even though we are history makers, the next, woman or the next person of color or the next, minority student that's the regimental commander, it's more normal than it is historical.
And I can say, as the chair of the Communications and Community Relations Committee for the Citadel Board of Visitors, and as someone with a background in working with the media and in communications and public relations, you were and are a brilliant spokesperson for the Citadel. And the positivity that you bring and everything that you have done in the interviews then and in your character and what you're doing now really is truly amazing. So I'm just so honored to know you. I know we're running out of time. We wanted to try to keep this to about 45 minutes, but I do have a few more questions for you. And Sarah, you addressed diversity a little bit and where you would like to see the Citadel. Kathryn, would you like to add anything to that? Let's say, what would you like to see the Citadel look like in 20 years?
Well, I wholeheartedly agree with Sarah with the diversity, but I mean, if more women want to come to the Citadel, more people of color, that's absolutely great. I would love to see it. They got to earn it just like everybody else does, and we all do. So,
well, we're getting there. 13% of the Corps. We're getting we're getting more women interested in joining the Corps of Cadets, which is a wonderful thing. What advice would you give to cadets coming in to the Citadel now, whether they're male or female? Kathryn, go ahead.
I would say in one ear, out the other. Your freshman year is your year to learn and observe. All you got to do is play the game, and you get through that year and you learn as much as you can about the good leadership and the bad leadership you want to take with you into sophomore year.
That is a really, really great advice. In fact, I said something very similar to someone in the Corps earlier today. Sarah, what about you? What's your advice?
I would say, and I've actually said this to quite a few people that I know that have gone into their NOB year, but it's take it one meal at a time. So wake up in the morning, go do PT, be like, okay, I just got to make it to breakfast. And then, you get to breakfast and then you say, okay, I just have to make it to lunch. And then you get to lunch and you're like, okay, I just have to make it to dinner. And then, you get your schoolwork done, you bed down for the night, and it's like you go to bed and you're like, okay, I just have to make it to breakfast. And that, in all honesty, that mindset is probably what got me through my NOB year.
Great advice. Great advice. So what kind of legacy do you hope you left for future women leaders in the Corps? Sarah, go ahead. You're thinking.
I would say the legacy that I hope I left is that would hope that people know that being a female, you can achieve those ranks and you can accomplish those things. But I also hope that I help people understand that your gender doesn't have anything to do with it. It's whether or not you can do the job. It is all, it's all, I would say talent based. And so I would, because when I think about myself and I think about, my cadet experience, I wasn't a super great student. I wasn't, really exceptional anything, but I tried my best to be varied in a lot of the things that I did. So I tried my best in academics, I tried my best in athletics, and I gave what I knew to be my 100% in each one of those things. Did I have a 4.0 my entire time at the Citadel? I did not. But did I do my absolute best at everything? what my personal best was, yes, I did. So I hope I humanized the experience a little bit, if that makes sense.
Yes, yes. Kathryn, what about you?
Mine's a little bit in tandem with Sarah's. Don't let anybody tell you you can't do it. That's what I hope to send to everybody, because you can be the best of the best at the very beginning, and then you kind of die out, or you can be not so great and then become great because you chose to work for it. If you choose to work for it, you're going to be rewarded.
And I've skipped a couple of questions, but I see that we have a couple of questions that have come in, and I'm not sure if this is someone that I know or not, but I'm going to go ahead and tell you the two questions. Why do you think it took 20 years to have the first female regimental commander? Sarah, I'll give that one to you.
Change takes time. When we think about change in a large scale, you have to think about generational change, and that is a very, very slow process. So I would say probably through the mid 2000s to maybe the early 2010s, there was a lot of bitterness that was still being held on to from the assimilation of women into the Citadel. And as time passed by, we kind of became a little bit more removed from that bitterness, and people weren't holding grudges anymore, for lack of a better term, and they were more open to looking past people's identifiers and looking more towards the human being, if that makes sense.
Yes, absolutely. So, Kathryn, I'm going to give you this next question because it seemed to strike a chord with you a while ago. Since the ring ceremony has been held in various locations over the years, why was it important to return it to Summerall Chapel?
So when asking my classmates, I know why it was important to me, because I do understand with COVID and everything, being in the gym. For me, it was about being here with my classmates and getting that ring with them, because we went through this trial all of these years with our classmates. Our family can watch it on Zoom. It's the argument that I made to Colonel Gordon was we would like to be with our classmates. And if that's all the seats that they had, that's our better option. And even though we didn't get to knock on the door, which is completely fine with the structure of the chapel and the integrity, we wanted to bring it back just to where we kind of knew as tradition, but we wanted it just to be us.
What a wonderful thing. I know I was asked that question last week. I was in Israel with our chaplain and 14 cadets, and they were asking about that tradition, and now that it's been going on for a few years, they believe it's always been that way, but it hasn't always been that way. So it's a great location, and that's where I graduated, in Summerall Chapel, and it's also where my husband and I got married. So it's very special, as you did, yes, last year, June 1st, I remember. So, Sarah, I know I've got to ask you this, and if anyone else would like to ask a question, please enter it in the Q&A, and we'll get right to it. Sarah, I know that there was a question that you would love to answer. What is one thing you learned at the Citadel that you still do?
So there's actually two things that I still do that I learned at the Citadel. One of them is I always carry everything in my left hand. And then I always make my bed with hospital corners. And I walk pretty fast too, but I've always been a fast walker. So I'm not sure if that's Citadel related, but most definitely carry everything in my left hand.
That's a great example. Kathryn, what about you?
I think it might be an easy out, but I think for me, the PT regimen, the healthy diet has definitely kept me in a good spot, in a good position, because the Citadel was very, if you were in a leadership position, you needed to keep that. And so being an officer in the military, I want to keep a good mindset for the enlisted, for the officers beneath me once I become that rank, but just show that I can do it and can meet that standard.
That's wonderful. Thank you. And I skipped a question that I'd like to go back to if we've got just a minute or two. And that is to describe your leadership style.
Kathryn, feel free. I'll most definitely jump in, but go ahead.
Okay. Mine is very situational leadership, especially freshman year. Like I said, learning that good and bad leadership, you put that tool in your toolbox and you go on to the next year, and then you get more tools in the toolbox. And so throughout the years, being corporal, being a sergeant major, being regimental commander, you learn all these different things and you say, that's a good lesson. I'm going to take it, put it in my toolbox. And then later on down the road, and it has helped me a lot here in the Air Force, you take out that tool and you're like, this is where it fits. I'm going to put it in here. And it really does help a lot. Just knowing that each situation isn't the same and it doesn't require the same exact answer. So knowing that you do have different tools, and my dad and my mom told me this growing up, is that you need a different answer for each equation.
How do you think that your training at the Citadel and how you develop that leadership style at the Citadel has affected what you're doing now?
Especially in pilot training. So at initial flight training in Colorado, a lot of random things happen in the plane and you're just like, oh no. But you go back to your basic training and then you say, okay, with this situation, what do I do? Or if you have a problem in your flight with somebody who's not dealing well with it, okay, now I know this situation calls for this tool. And so it has really helped me just being able to connect to other people, being able to think really quickly on my feet. So,
Sarah?
I would say I would describe my leadership style as a servant leadership style. And I think that maybe some people will kind of cringe at that word because it's sometimes overused. But when I approach an individual or a group of people, I've spent the past really 4 years of my life leading other people as a platoon leader, battery operations officer, battery executive officer. And I did my best to leave myself out of the equation. So anything that I ever did was not for my own personal gain. And I did my best to think about myself last, if that makes sense. So that goes for young soldiers, because, you know, as a platoon leader, you're a 21, 22-year-old individual, and all of a sudden you're responsible for somebody who's 18 or 19. And you owe them guidance, leadership, mentorship. And I did my best, even if a Joe messed up, right? Even if I had to take them in front of the battalion commander for an Article 15, right? I never forgot the human aspect. And I hope I never forget the human aspect of leadership, because although that Joe, you know, may have gotten in trouble, you still owe them the follow through with that. So you still owe them what comes after, a plan of action, if you will, on how they are going to recover from that, what they can do to be better in the future. And then you owe it to your team, whether it be your platoon sergeant, your section sergeants, whomever, your subordinates, to develop a plan with them and work with them. That way we don't have those problems in the future. So it was kind of a long-winded answer, but I hope that kind of shed some light a little bit on my leadership style.
Yeah, in fact, we just got another question too. I love this question because it's something that I really believe in, and it's mentorship. And I believe the question is directed for the two of you. Are you active as a mentor to current cadets and grads?
I can take it. Yes, absolutely. So, I mean, especially for the regimental commander right now. I call him, I talk with him, talk over some stuff. But even others, they call me and they're like, hey, I'm in this position. I don't know what to do. What should I do? And some do call me and ask me for my input. And I might not always have the best answer or the right answer, but there are a few cadets who still stay in touch, and even now graduates as well still talk to me.
Sarah, what about you? Oh, you're on mute. Sarah, you're on mute. I can read lips pretty good. I think you said something about having issues. We can't hear you. Oh, that's too bad.
I'll work on that.
Oh, thanks, Aaron. Let's see. Can you unmute her, Aaron?
No, she has to do it live. I don't know why it's not unmuting her.
Oh, that's too bad. Because I would love to hear her response to that.
Same. Give me a second, Sarah.
Okay.
Please keep going.
Okay. And so, Kathryn, is there anything else that you have not talked about that you would like to talk about this evening? Because I know we had a lot of questions, 15, 20 questions, and we're approaching almost an hour now. So is there anything else that you'd like to add?
Yes. So I know it might seem that I did regimental commander by myself, but I had one of the best support groups. My deputy commander was right neck and neck with me for regimental commander, and he is very smart. His name is Grayson Gaskew. He's a Navy pilot now. He was amazing, and if I needed anything, he was there. If I needed him by my side, he was there. He was always supportive, which at first I thought wasn't going to happen, but I knew him through honors college. But he was by far the best deputy I could have ever asked for. And then my parents were just the best support system as well, with my now husband. But especially through sophomore year, my dad went through cancer, stage 4 lymphoma. And it taught me a lot about how to be happy through hard times, because he always had a smile. He always said he was better than he deserved. And it made me realize, okay, my dad went through cancer. There's not really that big of an issue that I can go through that I can't have a smile on my face here at the Citadel. And so, especially junior and senior year, that was one of my biggest goals, is to always have a smile, always try and be happy and see the upside of things.
Oh, it's so important. Sarah, can you try to test and see if you can add anything?
No, still can't hear.
Oh, too bad.
I'm so sorry. I don't know what's going on.
I know. That's so bad. I'm so sorry. Well, we should probably go ahead and close out, unless there's any other questions that someone would like to ask. Just put it in the Q&A while I'm getting ready to wrap up. But what an amazing hour with the two of you. And I just want to thank everyone for zooming in to listen to these two wonderful young ladies. You know, the mission and vision of the Citadel is to educate and develop principled leaders. And these two are incredible examples of principled leaders who are devoted to honor, duty, and respect. And once again, I respect both of you so much. You went through the Corps of Cadets. I did not. And I just really admire you, and I hope you both know how much I think of you. I think you do. But thank you all for being a part of this evening. It looks like we might have one more question. When will there be the first female Summerall Guard?
You want me to answer that question?
If you would like.
I honestly believe it's anybody's game. You can have your chance. And if you can meet those standards, go for it. I did try out and I pulled a muscle in my leg running over Christmas break. So I had to drop out, and that's completely fine. You can take that as you will. But I really do believe it's anybody's game, no matter what they say to you, no matter what they make you do. If you really want to be a Summerall Guard, you just have to work for it.
So I wish Sarah could answer that as well. I'm sure that she's got a lot of thoughts on that. Maybe she could enter something into the Q&A, but or she could text me. You know, you can send me a text and I could read it. But what a great night! I'm just so very thankful to know both of you and to have watched your cadets' careers evolve. From the time, Kathryn, that you were a knob under Sarah, and it's just been an amazing last several years to watch both of you to grow and to move on into the military. I can't thank you enough for your service, servant leadership, as Sarah brought up, your service to the Citadel, your service to the nation. We all thank you very much for that. And your character also continues to reflect positively on the Citadel. So thank you both so much. Tessa, is there anything that you would like to add in closing?
Yes, thank you so much. This was a really wonderful program. Sarah and Kathryn, thank you for sharing your stories with us this evening. I know that a lot of them are going to stay with me after we leave today. You are both remarkable women, and we are so grateful for all that you've shared tonight. And Allison, thank you for beautifully moderating this evening's discussion, and apologies for the technology challenges that we had at the start. But thank you also for all that you do and are. You are always ready to support, to lead, and to be a voice for those who need one. So thank you so much for being here with us this evening. Thank you. This is a wonderful way to celebrate women. Thanks to all who joined us this evening and who will watch this recording after today. Please keep an eye out for an email later this week with the recording. You'll also have a brief survey and information on our next virtual program for Women's History Month. That is titled 181 Years of Women at the Citadel. It's a history presentation that I will be giving virtually next Tuesday, March 28th. So we hope to see you there. Thank you again, and good night to all.
Thank you. Thanks, Sarah. Thanks, Kathryn.